Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a distinguished guest, Mr. Praveen Kumar, Secretary, Ministry of Development and Entrepreneurship. I, on behalf of TeamLease Skills University and NETAP, welcome you all to the e-launch white paper on return on investment on apprenticeship. Apprenticeships are a powerful tool to build human capital. Most of the developed economies have taken up apprenticeship to skill people, which are key for the socio-economic growth in India. In India, the apprenticeships are on the brink of taking off. With 5 amendments since inception, apprenticeships can enable employers to build a strong people supply chain and be the force to channelize youth towards formal employment. The white paper takes a business view of apprenticeships rather than looking at it as a compliance mandate. It defines the clear, quantifiable output which has short-term gains and long-term returns. Today we have with us Mr. Praveen Kumar, the Secretary to the Skill Ministry, and who will be sharing his thought on the power of apprenticeship at the launch of this white paper. Sir, we are eager to hear from you, sir.
Am I audible now?
Very much.
This is a new protocol we have in the virtual seminars. We start not with good morning or respected friend, but by am I audible now? That's how we start. Anyway, good morning everyone, especially Mr. Manish, Sabharwal, Mr. Sumit, Mr. Vinod, and all the participants who are participating. I see there are around 89 participants. That's a good number for an 11 o'clock seminar on a working day. Thanks TeamLease for commissioning this study, and it was a very important study, as I will say later why it is very important from a government's point of view also, and the results will be very useful in future. As we all know, this government has been focusing on skill right from 2014. And in 2015, a new skill mission came. 2014, the new department came. This new department itself came. And a number of initiatives were taken, short-term training, long-term training, ITI ecosystem change. And one of the important verticals which were addressed was apprenticeship. It was a very important vertical amongst all the verticals this ministry has been focusing on. Now, on the face of it, apprenticeship looks a very win-win kind of situation. For a trainee, he gets a real-time training, not something artificial on the shop floor on a lathe, which is not there on the shop floor at all. He gets straight away, he becomes ready-made to work on the shop floor based on the training. His market potential goes up. If I was a trainee, I won't expect a stipend also. I'll be ready to pay a fee to become an apprenticeship so that my market goes up. Instead of expecting a stipend, like going for any education system, you will pay a bomb as a fee. I'll be ready to pay a fee and do apprenticeship and become marketable. And so for the trainee, it's a very, very ideal kind of a skill training which will be taken, the best among all others of various methods we have of skill training. For establishments, I think is a lot of advantage which establishments have not been able to assess or focus on. One thing, you get to train people at a very low cost. Instead of paying someone employee salary, training them for 6 months or 1 year before they become productive, you get to train some people at a low cost and then select the best of them for your company. So you get the best quality, you get the best and low cost and good quality personnel to be employed in your company. And I'm sure there are studies also earlier, when DFID had commissioned some study to Dalberg that said that the productivity also grew up because of the apprenticeship training. So generally you recover the amount. I think no establishment which realizes the value of apprenticeship will rely on the government incentive, which as such is a very small amount. Government gives a pittance, 1,500 rupees maximum. That is a small amount compared to the kind of apprenticeship that stipend you give. So ideally, I would have expected most of the institutions, establishments, to go for apprenticeship in a strong manner. And but I'm taking that in the mind, a lot of initiatives were taken. The Act was amended, the rules were amended, a new program was launched, but still apprenticeship has not become popular. We were doing around 1.5 to 2 lakh people at that point of time. Now also we are doing around 2.5 lakh in our system and another 1 lakh in the higher education system, the boards. So 3.5 lakh we are doing. So there is a demand for apprenticeship as we see from the registrations on our portal. But establishments are not coming forward. There's a reluctance among them. So now we have started this work of again analyzing what are the issues. One thing is the restrictive contract and the regulatory regime. I think where now the establishments go for contract labor and others, they won't like to have one-to-one contract with the apprentices. I mean, that's a hassle in getting approval of each of the contracts. So we are working on that. We are working on amendment of the act so that it becomes more friendly. Then we are trying to bring in a new scheme where we'll focus more on helping the big companies. Reliance, SAIL, Tata's don't need our small pittance money which we give. The MSMEs perhaps will focus more our stipend to companies whom we want to bring into to onboard the companies and not companies who realize the importance of apprenticeship. IEC, I think your report will be very useful. Convince the organization that why apprenticeship is not a burden, it's not a use, it's useful for you. Then degree apprenticeship, we have already this time 150 colleges we are tying up. But while you pass out, you get an apprenticeship also. We are talking to UGC also so that in the CBCS system that this also is included as part of your choice-based credit system, or part credit maybe through the apprenticeship. So you can be a BA history and come out as a good plumber, very good plumber. You can come out like that. But we have to be careful also. We don't want to land into a situation where the criticism which NEEM faced, the NEEM that AICT NEEM faced, where it was alleged, I don't know how much true, how much wrong, that the establishments are using NEEM trainees or whatever you call them as employees, low paid employees. A lot of articles came 2 years back. So AICT had to restructure the scheme a bit. So we want to guard amongst that. Any suggestions on that? That how we can make our apprenticeship regulatory structure more friendly, but restrict the possible abuse which some may. In India, problem is that whatever we do, always 10 people come in to abuse the system. I mean, there's always a jugaad to how to abuse the system, and the good takes benefit later. Is the bad who capitalize on anything which is opened up. So how to safeguard against that? I'm sure Mr. Manish will say that with so many compliances, we want to add some more compliances. But that is a fear which has led to so many compliances. So I would like to more not of a regulatory compliance, where as such you must have seen that we have removed punishments and other things, and the enforcement mechanism is very weak. So weak that is no point in enforcing in apprenticeship. It should come from inside, and I should have apprentices, but without leading to misuse of this provision. To bypass labor laws. Apprenticeship is supposed to be training. That's why we are building it from the minimum wages. So any semblance that it is a job is removed. It's not linked to minimum. Earlier it was being linked to minimum wages. People used to think it's a job. So I always say apprenticeship is a training. It's not a job. It's not an internship. Nothing. It's just a training. So with that, I'm looking forward to your report. I've gone through it, and it looks very promising for our IEC purposes. But I will also accept suggestions how to amend our act. We are seriously examining how to amend the act again to make it more friendly, so that this individual establishments don't stay away from apprentices because of the regulatory fear. So that should be removed. Working on that. Thank you very much. I don't want to keep you long. So instead of 10 minutes, I have been only for 8 minutes. I hope it's okay for you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really nice to hear you. I mean, your words of wisdom. I'm sure the audience would be, truly enthralled to hear your views on the apprenticeship and the initiatives that the government has taken to make it easy for the industry to execute apprenticeship in the new avatar. So thank you so much. I can see some questions which are coming in. So please, keep dropping in your questions in the QA box. We will take it up towards the end of the session. Moving on, let's look at the power of apprenticeship with clear, defined, expected returns. When the Apprenticeship Act was written in 1961, what was envisaged at that time India could have had about 15 million apprentices or about 5,000 CEOs behind the jail, because as per the erstwhile Apprentices Act, the non-adherence of the act could put the CEO behind the bars for not abiding to the act. But never ever we've heard about such incident. Over many years, apprenticeships have been viewed with a lens of legal compliances instead of business proposition that has deterred employers to take up apprenticeships. The white paper is an eye opener which makes a strong business case in the favor of apprenticeship. I will now take you through some of the key points that have come out of the paper, which could be quite insightful. So just give me a moment. So the whole premise of the white paper is based on a survey which kind of stated some of the hard ground realities which are faced by the employers around hiring and managing people. About 54% of the managers have expressed their concern about the low productivity levels of their employees. One of the major challenges that employers face in hiring is that there is the lack of skills, the availability of the skills. Soaring wages and compensation has been rated as one of the topmost challenge faced by over 45% of the employers. About 40% of the employees express their fear of losing talent to competition, and about 10% of the employers are concerned over the high attrition rate. All these concerns and challenges which has been expressed by the employers are basically an outcome of the shortage of talent, which is a result of the defects which exist in our learning system. Our education system is largely focused on towards the formal learning, not on the skill development, and that has led to the unemployability. Our graduate employability rate is as low as about 20 to 22%. India has about 2.5 lakh apprentices, which accounts for just about 1.1 participation in the India labor market. If we were to look at the global scenario, Germany and Australia have about more than 4% of their participation of apprenticeship. And even US has about 0.5% participation, which has a much smaller apprenticeship system as compared to our country. Only 4% of the Indian workforce has gone through formal training, which is a cause of low productivity levels experienced by the employers. Again, if you look at the global context, Germany has about 80% of their workforce, which is formally trained. UK and US has about 75%, and China has about 84% of its workforce, which has undergone a structured training program. So what India needs is to build its skilled workforce is an experiential learning framework, which is in the form of degree-linked apprenticeship that is based on Gandhiji's Nai Talim, that will set the foundation, or I would say learning foundation, for preparing the workforce for 21st century. So here what we are looking at is blending the apprenticeships with corporate learning and having a higher education connectivity. So the multimodal learning process, when integrated with the modular higher education connectivity, will help overcome some of the challenges which are around the accessibility and affordability of quality education. Blending skills with education, we eliminate or reduces the youth unemployability. And also, how do we bridge the skill deficit which exists in the market or in the industry? Here's an important grid which highlights the challenges by the employers. What are the learning process that needs to be undertaken for talent creation? What are the kind of investments that is required from the employer, and what are the possible outcome that can be expected out of this whole process? So let's look at the challenges which exist typically at the beginning of an employee life cycle, which is largely around the hiring. So the lack of it's finding talent becomes a major challenge because of the skill shortage, and talent acquisition cost, mobilization workforce, and high attrition are some of the challenges which over a period of time take a much larger shape in terms of retaining the talent that you create. Also the high replacement cost associated with it, leading to a high talent cost, talent acquisition cost, and also the possible productivity loss due to the lost man hours. What we're looking here is a continuous learning process in the form of 10-20-70 model, learning model. So here what we're looking at is how the 10% of the learning should be focused on gaining knowledge and understanding of the subject matter. The 20% of the learning is through the peer interaction and the feedback. The 70% of the learning is actually by the application of knowledge, which is learning by doing. So what we're looking here is about 220 learning hours in a month, which kind of remains steady over a period of time. But what's in for the people who go through this process, that they can expect a skill upgrade. So right from the NSQF level 3, they can expect to move up to as high as about NSQF level 7 to upgrade their skills. And also because of the higher education, which has been built into the entire model, every phase will, or every module, help them get a certificate with an upgrade to an diploma, to an advanced diploma, and eventually a degree. With a mere investment about 12,000 rupees per month, some of the benefits or the visible benefits that the employers can see is that they are able to create a people supply chain, which kind of overcomes the skill shortage and which kind of makes the talent real time available, which reduces the hiring time. And also the cost efficiency in hiring starts kicking in at the beginning of the apprenticeship. Now, if the employers remain invested in apprenticeship for over a year, these short-term benefits can be amplified into a large or higher returns. So with the 3 times of investment on learning, I mean, they can expect about 3 times of returns by investing about 16,000 rupees per month, with the total benefit amounting to about 5 lakhs. And how does that translate is because there is an improved retention by about 25%. There is a reduction in the hiring cost by 50%, and you can expect about productivity enhancement by about 30%. And over a period of time, a well-oiled apprenticeship machinery can lead to controlled attrition in enhanced business and the individual's capabilities and the productivity. How does it control the overall hiring cost? And also it helps the organization to build human capital. Again, a survey which was done, keeping in mind the various sizes of the organization. Apprenticeship is beneficial for enterprises of all sizes and shapes. And here what we're looking at, that the results showed that almost all of them agreed that it leads to the enhancement of the productivity. 84% of the respondents agreed to that or had that kind of an opinion. Even 34% of the employees suggested that there is an increase in the overall revenues on account of deploying apprenticeship. The level of retention and the engagement improves by deploying apprenticeship. About 28% of the employers responded with that, and about 22% of the employers said that yes, there is an enhancement in the overall output of the organization. So definitely apprenticeship makes a business case, and we will be sharing a detailed white paper with all of you post this session. So moving on, today we also have with us Mr. Manish Sabharwal, the chairman for TeamLease Group, to share his views on apprenticeship. Manish, we would love to hear from you.
Thank you, Sumit.
Yes.
So it's a pleasure to be here. Clearly, your survey was taken pre-COVID. Only 54% of people are worried about productivity. All the CEOs I talk about working from home probably remember what Andrew Carnegie once said. When Andrew Carnegie was once asked how many people work at US Steel, he said about half. So I think most CEOs are, this notion as of us being in working from home being a solution to COVID in the long run is interesting, but I think it is grossly unfair because if you work with your hands and legs, you can't work from home. Only 5% of Indians have broadband. Only 5% have a room where they can work for in their houses. So I would say that work from home has provided continuity, but the jury is still out on whether it will provide productivity. And I think for the cognitive elite, which is everybody attending this seminar, it is okay to talk about working from home, but anybody who inhabits the world of skill development, anybody who inhabits the world of hiring at the bottom of the pyramid, the three fastest growing segments of India's job market are sales, customer service, and logistics. And those can't be done from home. See, China's farm to non-farm transition happened to factories. India's farm to non-farm transition is happening to sales, customer service, and logistics. So I would submit that the 54% number of people whom you are worried about productivity today is probably 75%. Right? Because in fact, if some people are honest, they should apply for leave. They are not working from home. At least even within our own company, we have realized that, and that is probably true for many situations. But I think that the launch today is really important for three reasons. COVID, the future of education, and apprentices. So I think that three questions around COVID need to be answered before any employer can take a view around the virus, around consumption, and around professions. Let me expand on each three. So the first question around the virus, that are we at the start, middle, or end of the virus, is unmodelable. But till we have an answer to that question, our 3,000 employers do not want to go back to 100% capacity utilization, except for FMCG, which had stock depletion, consumer goods. All other industries are at 25 to 50 to 60% capacity utilization. So labor is not a binding constraint for them today. Demand is the binding constraint. So the second question around COVID is, will consumers and companies be frugal, or will they be hedonistic after this crisis is over? Because we need to eat. We don't need to eat out, is what this lockdown has reminded all of us. Many of you may have done the calculation. Most of us are spending only 20% of what we normally spend when the lockdown is not there. Now, that may be good for the environment, but it is really bad for the economy. Because the 50% of global consumption, the economy is consumption. So if people conclude and start distinguishing between needs, wants, and desires more sharply, because a modern economy is built on spending money on useless things, and that is called consumption. So I would submit the need, want, and desire calibration may change because of a 6-month lockdown, and that will be difficult for employers to model. And the third one is, it is clear that there are large professions, whether it is airlines, whether it is hotels, whether it is hospitality, whether it is retail, and I may volunteer whether it is auto components, whether it is construction, which will not come back in a hurry, and which cannot actually function without reducing the amount of social distance that we have come to expect in the virus times. So virus, are we start, middle, end? Consumption, are we going to be frugal? And the frontline professions of sales, customer service, logistics across many industries will be the last to recover. And that is really difficult to model. So I think COVID is an important variable into all our models. Since it is unmodelable, we need to prepare for differently rather than try and predict when it will end. This is related to the second point I wanted to make around the future of education. I think the 30 years of learning, 30 years of earning, and 30 years of retirement, that train has left the station. I think that the most important 21st century skill is lifelong learning. And we have to take that 30 years, which we viewed up front, and distribute it along the 60 years of earning and 60 years of retirement. So 2 years from now, globally, employed learners will cross full-time learners. Now, I think that's a really important milestone, because all our education systems are built for full-time learners at the beginning of their life. But the world is changing too fast for that. So employed learners require a very different regulatory system and require a very different institutional architecture. The second point around the future of education, which is really important, is in a world where Google knows everything, knowing is useless. So curiosity matters more than intelligence. Soft skills matter more than hard skills. But the question is, we don't agree on how to define soft skills, and we find it really hard to teach soft skills. It's nice to talk about them, but no two people will agree, and it's very hard to teach them. And the third one, which I think is really relevant to today, is the failure of financing globally of education. America has botched up how it financed higher education. $1.5 trillion in student debt for degrees in the US today. 50% of it will have to be written off, according to an official government estimate, because the student or the person does not have the wage premium that was supposed to be a return on the investment which they took the debt for. So $750 billion of student debt in the US can no longer be serviced by the wage premium that the child thought they would get for going to college. And that's why college isn't what it used to be. 60% of taxi drivers in Korea have a college degree. 31% of retail checkout clerks in the US have a college degree. And obviously 15% of high-end security guards in India have a college degree. So I'd say apprenticeships are at the intersection of the future of education, future of employed learners, and the future of financing. Because there is a market failure in skill development. Employers are not willing to pay for training or candidates, they're willing to pay a premium for trained candidates. Candidates are not willing to pay for training, they're willing to pay for a job. Microfinance and banks aren't willing to lend to candidates unless a job is guaranteed. And of course, training companies are unable to fill up their classrooms. So I think apprenticeships are the future of education. Degree-linked apprenticeships are obviously even more the future of education because of the social signaling value of degrees. Michael Spence got his Nobel Prize for that. So I think India could easily reach 10 million apprentices in 10 years if we tweak the Apprenticeship Act a little bit, and we will obviously get back to Mr. Kumar about specific suggestions. But obviously, the intersection of UGC, AICTE, MHRD, MSDE is where the action will have to be, because this is not a horizontal degree-linked apprenticeship for employed learners who have 4 classrooms. So there are many things going on here. We have multiple classrooms, we have degree linkage. But I think that, in 1938 is when Gandhiji articulated Nai Talim. And that was really a very fascinating vision of vocational education, which was not accepted by policymakers either in the first 5-year plan or second 5-year plan, or not even captured, I would say, even in the Radhakrishna Education Report of 1958 or the Kothari Committee Report of 1968. But I think, we have a very real chance because of COVID. We have a very real chance because of China's bullying on our borders to sort of reimagine education as degree-linked apprenticeships, as multiple classrooms. And the fundamental point of bringing in employers, as Mr. Kumar said, many employers are hesitant. There may be 30,000, maybe 35,000 employers in India who engage with apprenticeships out of 63 million enterprises. Let's not take enterprises. Let's take out of 1.5 million Provident Fund and ESI payers. Or let's take, there are 12 million GST registrants. So I think getting more employers, we at least in TeamLease Skills University have found that we will be able to bring in another 50,000 employers if we are allowed to, by making degree linkage, because we are now able to convince CFOs. See, in the past, the mistake that we made at TeamLease Skills University is we were selling to the HR head that this is a way for you to use your training budget. But we did not go and sell to the CEO and CFO who said that for every capital expenditure that you make, your hurdle rate is 12%. We have now proven to CFOs and CEOs that an apprenticeship program gives you a faster payback than buying a CNC machine, than doing much of the capital expenditure on which you, without a heartbeat as a CFO, allocate hundreds of crores. All we are asking you is allocate a few lakhs to an apprenticeship program. So I'm very excited with the white paper that we have been working on, I would say, for almost 5 to 10 years, where employers would always tell us, you are asking me to do CSR by doing apprentices. Our message to them today is, you do not need to do CSR to do apprentices. We will give you a return on investment higher than your capital expenditure. So, it is almost 100 years since Gandhiji's Nai Talim was first articulated. But I think over the next 10, 15 years, all of us in the ecosystem can really take India's 500,000 or 350,000 apprentices to 10 million. And, we and TeamLease have realized for a long time, the two most important decisions a child in India makes are to choose your parents wisely and to choose your PIN code wisely. But the infrastructure of opportunity, which people think of as road power telecom, we view as apprenticeships, as degree-linked apprenticeships, and obviously now in the new world of education as online linked classrooms. So thank you very much, sir, for your remarks. We will absolutely, and for the opportunity for us to come back to you with specific amendments to the Act. We think that employers, at least to get to another 200,000 employers, may not be the binding constraint. Today, they were worried about financing. Today, they had information asymmetry. And today, they were not convinced about. Obviously, to get to 1 million employers, we will require a tweak of many public-private partnerships. But we are very happy with this return on investment thesis that we have had in our head for many years, but we are now able to prove to employers. So thank you for your time. And Sumit, you'll now give us some questions, or how will you do that?
Yes, thank you so much, Manish, for your perspective, sharing your perspective to apprenticeships. We have some questions which are coming in. And one of the questions that comes up is for Mr. Praveen Kumar. Probably he should be able to answer this, because the question is that you are suggesting that now the Apprenticeship Act is going to get amended and going to be launched in a new avatar. What is it that government is doing to make apprenticeship popular so there is a wider acceptance by the youth to take up apprenticeships?
Now you can hear me? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
See, my address also, I said that IEC is going to be an important component of our apprenticeship, but we will focus more on the establishments. But as far as the youth are concerned, see, we are now switching to, for all our training programs, we are demand driven. Like the district level, we are having a counseling center. One counseling center will be there. Any youth can go there and say, I want to get skilled. So all the opportunities available will be there in that counseling center. There will be short-term training, which is around you, which is the long-term trainings and apprenticeship, which you can do, and what qualifications will be there. And this counseling center will also be available virtually through an app. I want to skill myself app. It is under development. So I want to skill myself basically under that app. You go in, you can even, if you want, you can get a psychometric test done, and then you can choose that what you want to do and register yourself. And if you want to do apprenticeship, you will get to know, you get registered on the apprenticeship portal. If you want to do short-term training, you get registered in the district demand register for short-term training or long-term training. So that is done. So that will be there. Where youth will know that apprenticeship is also an opportunity. Other thing we are going to do, we are going to access schools every year for half a day. From the skill ecosystem, people will go to the schools, especially on 10th class and 12th class. That what are the opportunities available to you? Because people don't know, because everyone thinks a higher education degree karna hai, then something is to be done. That's the feeling in the country. Only those who are left out think about skilling. So we want to catch them there itself, that the way private universities go and access in the schools and say that you can come to our university. Our skilling system will also go and then and lay the whole buffet before them, that this is, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. Apprenticeship is also one of them which you will be doing. Other thing, you must have seen that we have launched that ASEEM portal, that is the Atmanirbhar skilled employer mapping. So what happens now that we have a dichotomy in the country now. One side we say that the establishments don't want skilled people at all. There's no demand for skilled people, and a lot of skilled personnel are there who are not employed. And other way, if you survey the establishment, they say that we don't get skilled people at all. So this is mapping. There are people, there are establishments, but they are not able to search each other. This is an all India kind of, you can say, urban club kind of thing. At a click of a mouse, I suppose you want in Banaskantha 4 plumbers. From there, you can get the details of 4 plumbers. You can call them for interview. You can select them, whatever you want to do. Even placement agencies can access that. Suppose TeamLease wants to access 100 people and curate them and send it to a place. They can do that. It's not restricted to anyone. Even individuals, placement agencies, establishments directly. Mostly, most establishments depend on placement agencies nowadays. They don't go directly. So it's available to everyone. So we are populating it. So everyone who has gone through the skill ecosystem, whether apprentices, short-term training, ITIs, will be there. Around a 2 crore database will be there. We are populating it from the historical database, and once this batches pass out after this COVID, all will be there. So both this and with the establishments, we are going to do a IC campaign. We've already done 2 rounds with the central PSU discussions with the states. We have done it. That central PSU's numbers have gone up after our interaction with them. At least that we tell them that we should not see the 2.5% limit. We should see the 15% limit as the PSU should be leading instead of following the just mandatory 2.5. So we are working on that. It's a continuous process. And any feedback which comes, if we feel it is good and feasible, both have to be there. We take it up. There's no problem on that.
Sure. So, just a question here. I mean, do you think that linking apprenticeships with degrees or having that degree apprenticeships can make it more aspirational for the youth? Because you said that people want to go for higher education and not skilling and all that stuff. But linking higher education or degrees with the skilling programs or with apprenticeship can make it aspirational, and that's how the more youth will come forward to take up apprenticeships.
The short answer is, because if we make aspirational, is yes. Because today also, I ask all of you whether you like your child to go for higher education or you want to send them to an ITI or something for apprenticeship directly after 10th. All of you will prefer that. Let us. I'll prefer them to go to a higher education. 90% of the people. So that is the problem in India. India, the working with hands is always deemed to be inferior to working with mind. That has come. Even a BPO operator who may be earning less than a Uber driver, but he feels socially superior to a Uber driver. He was a driver. I BPO mein kaam karta hu. He may be getting 20,000 per month. I am getting only 15,000. That's the problem. But that's why we are also, and what Manish also said, that we are also pushing eventually that since everyone wants higher education, I mean that's supposed to be aspirational. You sound educated, you feel educated if you do a BA degree. So you are unemployable as a plain degree unless you are very good in it. You go for higher education after that, or else you do some competitions which is not linked to a degree and get into a bank or something. But still, plainly you are unemployable. So apprenticeship gives a via media, the degree linked apprenticeship. You are doing something aspirational, that you are doing a degree. But when you pass out from a degree, you are employable in some other field. At least you may become a good data analytic operator, or you may become a good painter, or whatever. So there's a link. But what I fear is that what will happen is that again these skills which require mind, data analytics, IoT, etc., that will become popular in this degree thing. And the more required, which is a fitter, plumber, electrician, which is required when you want to make Atmanirbhar Bharat, there will take time for it to move. So counter that, we are discussing with CBSE to make vocational training as a compulsory subject for the board exams. So everyone gets a vocational training in hand. So once everyone, next generation, everyone has worked with his hand and for a course, the respect for working with hand may grow up. That's our idea. Not immediately, but we're working with them. The only thing is logistic wise, we are thinking a hub and spoke model. Our ITIs work as the hub where the children of the schools nearby may come, get trained in the afternoon, go back one afternoon per week kind of thing. So that as a compulsory subject, not as an option, which is done now. So everyone, 100% should be participating. That's the idea.
I think there are many interesting questions which are coming up, and one of the questions is around the subsidies which is available. And you also mentioned that it is pittance for some of the large organizations. So one of the suggestions which is coming is that can you look at the subsidy based on the size of the organization? The smaller the size of the organization, the higher the subsidy should be, and vice versa. So
that's precisely what we are thinking in our new scheme, where the bigger organizations won't get any subsidy because they don't even need the pittance compared to 9,000. They pay 1,500. Nothing. They don't need that. But those who are not on board, like MSMEs, like MSMEs, we are trying a cluster-based approach through TPS and all that, so we can aggregate the MSMEs. We can push the subsidy there. So the new version of the scheme, the existing scheme is got over in March 31st, but has been extended because of COVID and all that, so 1 year. So within that period, we'll be framing the new scheme. And the focus, one of the components is focusing more on MSME and less on the larger institutions.
Sure. So one of the questions which is coming up on the degree apprenticeship, what we have mentioned is the program in compliance with the Apprentices Act, assuming that the changes expected in the Apprentices Act are yet to be done? Well, I would like to take this question. Yes, the program, the NETAP program that we offer is based, or the degree apprenticeship program, the NETAP that we offer is the on-the-job component is actually based on the Apprentices Act. So very much the program is in compliance with the Act. And also we look at the UGC guidelines for get the degree linkage. So very much the program is compliant. So in the similar regard, there's another one suggestion which is coming up is that the MSD and MHRD should kind of work together to come up with a degree apprenticeship structure, and it needs to be relooked. Is there anything which is being done?
We are already in dialogue with the MHRD. Okay. There is 150 degrees thing, degree apprenticeships in 150 colleges. It was announced in the last budget. That MHRD has taken up through his board, but with our support, that the Board of Apprentice Training, through them they are taking up this degree program, and with our support. So this is kind of a pilot kind of thing we are doing, and then we'll expand it to all colleges, perhaps where with all students industry and pick up the program.
Sure, sir. One of the thing is coming is that how can apprenticeship complement the contract labor? I would just like to mention here is that
I want to make it clear.
Sure.
Don't confuse apprenticeship with labor, and that's the allegation which is going to come when we liberalize it. That people are using apprentices as labor, contract labor. Only thing is that what we can do, that we are trying to insist in the government system at least, put in a trajectory for the government contractors, those who take up work for the government. It should have employees who are skilled, formally skilled. So that I have a trajectory that's where in over 5 years, you can prescribe 100%, the contractor should have 100% skilled employees, formally skilled employees. So contract labor also, we can bring in something that contract laborers will also bring people who are skilled. And not informally skilled, formally skilled. That's something can be done. But never take contract apprentice as a substitute of contract labor as a substitute of. That we should be very careful about.
Absolutely, sir. I completely agree.
I think one I'd like to add here that an apprenticeship is a classroom. We have set back apprentices a few years by trying to confuse it or link it to employment. An apprenticeship should have a start date. It should have an end date. It should have a learning component to it. And whether an employer chooses to hire an apprentice is an independent decision of the apprenticeship. Because since 1961, when the Apprenticeship Act was written, it sort of thought that it did not treat it like a classroom. And I think that is why we lost 40 years. In fact, the Apprenticeship Act or apprentices was the 20-point in Indira Gandhi's 20-point program in 1975. And so we had known for a long time that apprenticeships are important, but whenever we confuse this with substituting labor, whenever we don't view it as a classroom, we set our own cause behind. So I think it's very, very important for everybody in the apprenticeship community, in the university community, to separate these two operations and not bring them together, because we don't live in an economy, we live in a society. And it's important to recognize that a classroom and employment are different stages of life and they're different things.
Thanks, Manish, for that. So there's a few questions which are coming in around the curriculum. The saying is that the two related questions are that, are we doing anything about updating the curriculum for the apprenticeship? And also the similar thing is that the industry practice and the ITI study are totally different. So how are we doing this matching the skills as per the industry norms?
See, first let me answer the ITI issue. See, ITI, what they say is correct. ITI is, once you pass out from ITI, you may need a small orientation program before you are able to work on the shop floor straight away. Because machines you are trained on is different. We have brought in 2 or 3 systems where industries are closely can get involved with the ITI ecosystem. One is we have a system of flexi MUs where any industry, a group of industry, if they want, they can decide to have a tailored curriculum in that ITI, tailored to their needs. I think Maruti, Lakme, etc. have jumped at the offer, and they have adopted some ITIs. Around 50 ITIs have been adopted, which are working on the as a flexi MU. Other thing we are trying to maximize it and make it perhaps 100% in future. Now only 750 are there. Is the dual system of training, DST. What to take the theoretical input in the class in the ITI plus some lab, then in one semester, the next semester you go to the shop floor, get trained there, and there is no stipend also in that, so there is no issue of, and then so you are much more job flow ready. For that matter, Mr. Manish will support me that even an IIT graduate, if you put him in a factory, he is not able to, he won't be able to work straight away. He needs some orientation because in education system you go for a common denominator because there are different kinds of industries. So we won't be able to cater to each kind of industry within that same curriculum. And curriculum revision is a continuous issue in the ITIs because we have 40 curriculum revision committee for 40 sectors where industries are involved. Once in every 5 years it takes place. Similar thing will have to be structured for apprenticeship because somehow what has happened that our focus earlier was only on ITIs. Then in the last 5 years it's moved to the short-term training through the PMK program. Apprenticeship always became the third link in the training. So perhaps we have to work more on the apprenticeship curriculum revision continuous, especially for the theoretical component. We presume that the practical component will come from the shop floor itself. The theoretical component part will have to be worked more closely and get in with our new regulator in place. We'll be working on that also. Yes. Regulator one, recognition of courses and etc. Now apprenticeship is also now we have allowed the optional trades where you don't have to have recognized designated courses. You can have your own courses kind of thing. That flexibility is there, especially in the retail, etc. So there's optional trades. You need not have a NSQF aligned course also. That is also is not there. So all these things have to be looked at, and this is one of the items we are looking at when we that has removed the difference between designated trade and optional trade, and have only 2 types: NSQF aligned trades and non-NSQF aligned trades. And all those 5-6 categories of trades we have, let us remove that. Some are NSQF aligned, which will have value across the country, across the board, and there will be NSQF aligned, non-aligned, where depending on the institution where you took your value of the certificate. That is one of the suggestions we are working.
Sure. I think thanks so much for that, sir. There's one question coming in that most of the candidates are the school dropout candidates who are 8th and 9th pass, but they are capable of performing the job provided that proper training is given to them. How apprenticeship, the program, can help those candidates to get job opportunities? I think I would like to take that question here. Apprenticeship helps the people to upskill and reskill themselves. The whole structured format of apprenticeship give them add that finesse to that capabilities and adds to their productivity. How does it help to get job opportunities? Our experience suggests that 98% of the people that we have enrolled into our apprenticeship program are today into formal employment. The apprenticeship kind of adds that opening balance of experience on their resume, which helps them get employment, if not with the same organization, at least with any other employer within the industry.
Just if I may ask Mr. Kumar, so the related question that, our estimates is 265 lakh kids take the class 10th exam, 105 lakh fail, 160 lakh kids take the class 12th exam, 80 lakh fail, and obviously a huge number drop out before 8th. How would you think that we should think about connecting school dropouts to the apprenticeship system, or does that get complicated? And is that first we should take people who have already got diplomas and degrees and focus on them, or should we also start thinking about this pond of school dropouts and people like that? I mean, it gets harder for us to put them into apprenticeship programs, but at a certain level, apprenticeship programs are more important for them because they offer pathways into formal employment. And the CEO of UBS, the CEO of Asia Brown Boveri, three countries which we study a lot are very small, so not really relevant, but are Switzerland and Austria. And I have met 5 CEOs of $30 billion companies who were school dropouts, who started as an apprenticeship and rose to the top of the organization. But how do you think, or do you think that is a bridge too far for us right now?
Oh, as per the law, any person over 14 years of age can act as an apprentice. So no issue in that. But I am open to correction. But personally, what we think that perhaps 8-9 dropout should be taken into the ITI ecosystem, 1 year training, and then they can be taken to apprenticeship. So, and we are for that we are trying to increase the size of the ITI ecosystem from present 24 lakhs to 60 lakhs, so that the appreciable number of dropouts, and not even dropouts, the choice, they come to the ITI ecosystem, and then tracking the apprenticeship will make the apprenticeship more useful, because they will be better position to absorb the advantages of the apprenticeship. A fresh person, just 8-9 dropout, I think you will have to work much more during the apprenticeship, which establishment may not be in a position to divert resources for working on that person, building his theoretical concepts and then giving him training. That may be okay for a level 3, level 4 kind of apprenticeship, where you just need to not to do some plumbing or electrician work. The Chotu concept, who is also an apprenticeship, unpaid, unstipend apprentice with a craftsman. So that kind of thing may be possible, but not in a formal large establishments where some theoretical component will also be required. They will not be in a position. They will pick up if you give the inputs. They will pick up, but I don't know whether the establishment will be amenable to divert so much resources for developing such apprentices who want to work much more on that.
Absolutely.
There's another question which is to do with the game content, and the question is that should calibrating training content with industry need should be taken up as a yearly exercise?
See, it depends on the industry, from industry to industry, what kind of technological changes are taking place. So normally it is presumed that once in 5 years you will keep on changing the curriculum, but if the need requires, need is there, you can change it every year. I always take the example of a barber. See, they were having a lot of business cutting hair, shaving. When the safety razor came, half the business went away. So no one went for shaving to the barber now. Most of the people did the shaving themselves. So these disruptions, and if this COVID had continued, the lockdown had continued for 1 year, all of us would have started cutting our hair ourselves. The entire the barber community will have to orientate towards styling, etc., other things. So depending on the technological changes, that's why it has to be industry driven. Whenever industry feels that we need a change, that change has to be sensed, and industry should act as a feedback loop for us to trigger the changes, for the trainers to trigger the changes. That's why in the short-term training also, the driving force are the sector skill councils, which are basically industry representatives. And in the ITI system also, we have found 40 curriculum committees, which is for 40 sectors, which is industry based. It has to be industry driven. Once in 5 years has to be done mandatory. But if there are rapid changes coming in, some like in computers, IoT, no one would have heard of 10 years back, or blockchain, everyone has been hearing for the last 3-4 years. Something new will come today. There you may be needing every year new curriculum. But in plumbing, perhaps you may not be needing every year new curriculum. It depends. It depends on the situation.
Yes.
How could we make sector skill councils more effective, sir?
That's a very good question. I'm looking at the answer. There are 37 of them, which are 7-8 are very effective because they are driven by the industries. The industries, leading industries are taking it. Only way is to make the leading industries of that sector take interest in the sector skill council. But many of the sector skill councils have become like a clubs. Someone has gone and occupied it, and now it's kind of a club kind of thing, a kind of, again, a profit generating unit which you can't take out as a dividend. I mean, but how to make money for the sector skill council, that has become the objective. So we're working on the sector skill councils also. We have suggested a lot of things to them. We have suggested that each sector skill council should focus on a center of excellence for that sector. The CSR money of the industry in that sector. You don't need any money for it. And anyway, CSR money is not yours. You can use it for, and then you can train your people there. The entire industry can train there. You can have courses being generated, curriculum being generated. We keep a dialogue with the sector skill council always, so that we get to know what they are thinking. Minister of State himself was having a meeting individually with the sector skill council before this COVID came in. And it's and any suggestions are welcome how to make it more effective. Or if someone feels that this sector skill council should be focusing, like someone came yesterday to me and saying that why doesn't your automotive council look on the charging infrastructure, training for charging infrastructure? That feedback came to me that charging infrastructure with the EVs coming in, charging infrastructure will be very important. Now some council has to work on it. So I have sounded the automotive council that please come back to me in 1 week. If you don't do, I will ask the Green Job Council or the Power Council to work on that. So that kind of a competition also can be brought in for between sector skill councils to make them more effective also. So these things keep on coming in.
So,
Yeah.
there's one question that possibly the last question that we can take is related to the pharmaceutical life sciences sector, that why are we not including apprenticeship training suitably for competency development of freshers so as to increase the employability of MSc M Pharma degree program? So is there any work that is happening at that level for the pharmaceutical life sciences sector?
See, one problem we face with the health sector, pharmaceutical sector, all these regulated sectors. Like we were doing training for nursing assistants and all that, and suddenly the nursing council came that no, you can't do that. This is our duty. So all this, but I don't think I don't know. I have to go back and look at the farm specifically for pharmaceutical. I presume that with M-Pharm, etc., being controlled by their own regulatory council, we have to start a dialogue with them for that to be for a M-Pharm person. Apprenticeship with M-Pharm, we have to start a dialogue with, perhaps it's a good idea, perhaps we can pursue with all this medical council, the bar council, etc., whether we can open an apprenticeship with degree in these areas also. This is being regulated separately outside UGC and ICT. The constraints are much higher compared to what we face under degree. Degree itself, that UGC, the dialogue is going on.
Sure, sir. I think with that, we'll kind of just wind up. I think it's 12 o'clock now. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable inputs. I'm sure industry has gained tremendously with the kind of responses that you have given, and also what are the initiatives that government is making to make apprenticeship more popular, and the work which is being done to constantly improving it. Thank you so much, sir, once again. To wind up, India needs a skill-led recovery model to tide through the current economic situation, which is compelling employers to take a relook at the people supply chain strategy, where apprenticeship will play a critical role. We hope the model has specified enough reasons for employers to take up the apprenticeship. On behalf of NETAP and TLSU, I thank Mr. Praveen Kumar and all the participants for joining us today. We will be back, of course, with a lot of live cases and the anecdotes on the return on apprenticeships very soon with all of you. Thank you so much. And we do expect now that more and more employers come forward to take up apprenticeship. There are questions which have been left out. We will take them one-on-one and we'll ensure that every question gets a response from our side. Shortly, you'll also be getting a copy of the white paper. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.